Hey, Bible girls, we are back again to talk a little bit more on our financial literacy for real women. Today's lesson, I hope, is special because I know what we're going to discuss. Everybody knows the topic, both the Bible and the financial series. So we are going to actually just first have our word of prayer, invoke God into our presence, and then we'll jump right into the lesson. So just bow your heads with me so we can do just that. Dear Heavenly Father, we come today saying thank you for being with us in this day. Thank you for the assurances that you give us as to who we are in you and that you never change. We thank you that you have made provisions for us, and especially being able to just open your word to actually find the things that we should do and how we can see ourselves to get closer to you by actually just opening your word. So we ask that you would bless us today as we couple one more topic in helping us to get closer into our financial literacy and the places that you would have us to be so that all things may be well. These and other blessings we ask in your darling son, Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right. So let me tell y'all, I sometimes, well, I have heard, I'll say it this way, I have heard that I stretch the Bible to make it say things that is not there. I was once told that I better be careful that I don't be adding things to the word. I'd be like, I just be reading. Like I can see what I see, and then just maybe in the place that I'm at in my life, I just get to just see just a little bit differently. And it definitely helps when I can take an something that we know or an old story that we all should know to be able to actually pull things out. So what I want to ask, I know we're going to go through Genesis, which is Old Testament. We're going to be looking at Genesis 6 to start this lesson. And so I'm going to ask you to either put in the chat or out loud to say something that you know about the story of Noah and the ark is where we're going tonight. What do you know about Noah and the ark? Or is one thing you know about Noah and the ark?
He built the ark and he obeyed God.
Built it and obeyed. Okay.
God gave precise measurements for the ark.
Mm. Ooh, yes. He gave precise measurements. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here to show y'all where I'm going tonight. And we can actually take a look at Noah and talk about insurance. Um, Everybody that has ever heard of anything about the Bible, okay, I see in the chat, took two of each animal. Yes, that's going to come back up. That the story of Noah's Ark is taught in so many ways for so many reasons. We talk about it from the fact that there was the flood. We talk about it from the fact that the animals were saved, or may ask how many animals was there. We talk about the building, like using all of the wood and the specific dimensions to create it. We talk about the rainbow with God's promise to never destroy all living creatures by flood again. Like so many things that we talk about in there. And I'm just a proponent that the more you read the Bible, the more you study, that you should be able to pick up little things and be able to, as I heard a game Carla plays called Song or Sermon, that you should be able to take something and create a sermon from it immediately or sing a song about it immediately. And this is one I'm saying we could pull like a little mini sermon out of the story of Noah on insurance. All right, so before we go deep into insurance, just go over quickly the elements of what happened in the actual Bible story for any listeners who come in that are not a part of Bible Girls and may not know what happened. If we tell the story beginning in Genesis 6, we can see that there was some wickedness and corruption that God just was not pleased with. The people was wilding out, to just say it lightly. And the Bible says that Noah found favor favor with God, that he was faithful, he was righteous, he was upright, and that God actually was going to use him and preserve him, will be one of our words for insurance, preserved him. That God actually warned Noah that the flood was coming and that the earth was going to be destroyed. God actually gave Noah the specific instructions for what to build and how to build, like down to how tall, how wide, all of the dimensions of this, I'm going to say creation that Noah is doing by God's hand. Um, Noah then obeyed exactly what God said. Like, and I'll pause here and I'll say that there is a replica of the Ark. There's like a amusement park, a replica in Kentucky that took the actual description of what is in the Bible and recreated this Ark. And when I saw this thing, from having been a child and having heard the Bible stories, looking at somebody recreate this, it's just breathtaking to me. And if you haven't gone before, I pray one day that you get to get there, because if you're a Bible student, it's like candy, like to see this. Okay, so Noah obeyed the commandments, even though he didn't actually see a flood. He only heard God say it was going to happen. So obeyed him just by God saying it. Didn't actually see it. Noah also followed the instructions. He brought his family. He had a wife, three sons, and their wives, brought them onto the ark. And there was instructions for pairs of animals. Now there's two sections. When we look at the Bible, it says bring two, of these, and there's another section that says bring seven, of these. So if we read the story about it, it's a lot of animals on there. So two of each kind. Then you got male and female, blah 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 blah. Really great read. Um, Finally, the ark is built, and then the Bible says that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, I live in Nashville and I felt like it was monsooning yesterday. I can't imagine 40 days, 40 nights. We only had about 35 minutes of it and it was unbearable. So 40 days and 40 nights said the rain fell and covered the earth. Noah and his family are protected. They're on this boat, ark. It was not destroyed. Anything that was not on the ark was destroyed, not him and his family. Says after the flood happens, the water says it recede or retreated, depending on which version you use in the Bible. That the water recedes off, and the ark is able to rest on Mount Ararat. Then um, there is some testing, of whether or not there's dry land. Noah sends out some birds to go and check to see a couple of times, and then finally knows that it is dry land. Said that Noah then worships God after he left the ark. God made a covenant. That's where the rainbow comes in. He makes a covenant. He's never going to destroy the earth by flood again, not going to destroy all living creatures by flood again. And he said, I'm going to give you my sign, my bow of the clouds, which we know as a rainbow. And that was God's covenant. His promise to us still is his covenant promise to us that he is not going to destroy all things by flood. So that's the story if you read the Bible. Okay. What I want to do is take this same story and show us pieces that we can learn or get glimpses about insurance. Okay. Now, I don't know if you caught it from the beginning. On my first page, I wanted to call this in case of or just in case, because most people who don't value insurance will say, why do I need to have it? I only will use it in case of, and fill in the blank. And one of the things that I think women should really pick up on is you don't have the luxury to fix or to accommodate what happens in the case of when it happens. If you don't already have the insurance, whatever the in case of is worse, is going to be the point. And we're going to look at some things that women sometimes have to deal with that men don't, which is why the insurance topic to women should be so prevalent. But let's go into some of these points here. The first thing that I wanted to pull out was that we should dispel the fact that when we are preparing for something, that it's our lack of faith. Sometimes people like to put cute little words on things or give you, as I call them, religious tones to make things fit, to kind of hit you with the Bible so that you don't use your practical common sense. So if we look at the story of Noah, we can take the point that Noah did not see what was happening. He heard God say that this is what I'm going to do. And because he did, he's able to be preserved. People think that because you try to look out, be in a form of preparation, or that you are forward thinking, that that's you saying that you're not going to rely on God, or that's you saying that God can't take care of these things. And I want to say that that is foolish talk. Like, we all know that God can't take care of all things. We all know that God is a provider. But God also doesn't want us to be an idiot and think that we should do whatever we want to do. And then when something hard comes, we go crying and running to him when we could have been preparing. And I also look at this like, um, could God have done something differently? Just like in our own lives, if we get to a place that we're saying, I know God can do it, or in this case, God didn't do it. Could he? Yes, God can do all things. We know he can. But the simple fact that he told him to build this ark, this is like God saying, be prepared. Like, I'm trying to preserve you. I found favor in you. You are upright, you are faithful. I am going to give you this instance. Could God have allowed Noah and his family to be in the midst of the flood and God just magically take care of them as we see in our miracles? He could, but he told him to go and build something. He told him to prepare something. And Noah does it. So I pause here and I say that when we have the outlook of whatever our actual situations are, how are we, or how can we, I should say it this way, how can we take the time to actually prepare and not make it seem as if it means we don't have faith? How can we actually demonstrate our faith is there because we are preparing? Because we've been studying finances now for like 6, 7 weeks, and we've already seen multiple scriptures that alludes to the fact that we should take necessary steps to take care of our business. Everything should not have to be a miracle. Everything should not have to be miraculous to say, oh, God did this. If we would just take the time to actually prepare for things, he wouldn't have to go out of his way. Like, if I'm studying the book of John. Like, I've been reading the book of John all year long. And what I have seen, in which I have never seen before, seen in reading the book of John, maybe because I'm going so consistently, that there are so many times that the people, whether it was the Pharisees, just the Jewish people, um, even the disciples, that they're all saying, give us a sign, show us a sign. We shouldn't have to see a sign that God can do things for us to just demonstrate that we are a faithful people, but we should still take care of our business. Don't put Jesus, God, in the place that we always got to see him bring us out of something when we could actually be taking the necessary steps to just walk faithfully, be obedient, do what he tells us, and still take care of our business. They can all coexist. So it is not that you preparing means you don't have faith. it actually means that you are more faithful to you, your family, and God, and whatever you're getting insurance for, because you're actually taking care of it ahead of time. Okay. The next thing that I saw in looking at it, because I'm trying to also make the correlation here to insurance, is that when Noah built the ark, or when God told him to build the ark, he made provisions for his whole family. It was not just Noah that was preserved. It was not just Noah that went on the boat. Him, his wife, his three sons, and their wives were all on the ark. He gave the provisions for the animals to preserve them for multiple reasons. If we actually read the story, that more than just the person who was being talked to was being protected. And when I look at this, because of the various types of insurance products that you can buy, you also see that when you are actually preparing your needs assessments, as like what a insurance agent will ask you, who are you caring for? What do you have? Like if it's home insurance, for example, they might ask you about the size of the home. If it's car insurance, what kind of car and what are the features and all that, because you're trying to do a needs assessment. You will be doing your needs assessment as to who are you caring for, and what does your, I'm gonna say, gift of insurance, what does it have to provide for? Who is depending upon you that you should be thinking about when you are actually looking at your insurance products? So, not just for yourself, but other people may be protected, just like the others were here protected in on the ark, I should say. And also, next lesson is that what I saw in Noah specifically, like it talks about how long it takes. And so in the scriptures, when you read, God said, in 7 days, I'm going to do this. But when you actually read through the actual verses and see the age that Noah was when it actually rained, there was a minimum of 50 years. 50 to, the theologians say between 55 to 75 years that it would have to have taken to do this. I've seen comical reenactments of this, or even in sermons where people are like taunting, like, what are you doing? Or laughing at him, or, what are you over there doing? Ha ha ha. Because he's continuously just building something when nobody else can even think, why is he doing this? They didn't get the instructions from God for what to do, but he did. He was diligent in what he was doing. So I bring this in to a financial aspect of insurance to say that what you are putting the time, money, or thought process into for the insurance may not be nowhere in sight. It is something that could be way down the road, like I mentioned about the just in case stuff, something that is way down the road that you cannot see. Like Noah, it was dry at the time, and having to get all of the gopher, having to get all of the wood, having to do all the things, that all took time, took the resources. And he specifically told him what to use, and the time and the commitment to not stop was there in order for him to get this, to the finished dimensions. So for years, he's building something that appeared to be unnecessary. So we could translate that to us. When we look at how much does it cost to get insurance, or what price am I putting on the insurance, it may look like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending this? I haven't had a car wreck, so do I really need to have car insurance? I haven't had a problem with my roof, so maybe I can let my home insurance lapse. Like different things that may come in our mind because I'm spending out all this money, and it seems like it's unnecessary because it's not right in my face. And that's where I will throw my little joke in again. The insurance could be in case of, because it's not in your face. And if we use Noah's consistency and continuing to build and on doing it as grand as it was, the resources of time, that you could also translate that to how it may appear to you when you're sitting at your um, coffee table with your checkbook or with your um, online bank statements, whatever, like all this is going out, or I've been paying this for 15 years and nothing happened, or whatever. But when the time comes for it, just as Noah was prepared and able to reap the benefits of it, that's how you can look at your at insurance. Okay. Now, if we translate, side by side, Noah, he built the ark. It was way before the flood. Whatever you're getting insurance for, you haven't had a loss for it yet, so you don't appear to need it. But when the time comes, it comes. He protected his family. If you're buying insurance products, you could be protecting your family. It did require investment, like him, the time, the resources, the commitment. For us, it could be as simple as us paying the premiums. It may even mean that you have to go through a few um, like seminars or whatnot to get the right products or know exactly what things that you're trying to buy. But ultimately, once you make the decision for it, what it costs you is the monthly or quarterly, annually premiums for what it costs to secure it. Again, it seemed like it was unnecessary for him to be building this to the people. Again, God didn't tell the other people, he only told Noah. So it may feel to you or whomever, your spouse and whatnot, that it's unnecessary for you to do it because the need doesn't appear to be right there. And then finally, that because he did do it, the ark itself provided the shelter from the actual disaster that we all know actually came and did destroy all living things on the earth. You having the financial products necessary for whatever you're needing to secure will be your way of being protected against whatever disaster that you are coming up against. So again, I like to say that the word is so simple for us, and try if we can see that we don't have to be so literal, we can get a lesson out of anything. So I want to put this side by side for you to see how I even came to the fact that this I could be talking about insurance here, even though I can stretch it a little bit. Okay. Um, so for us now, like what storms do we see or could potentially be on the horizon that we can prepare for? Like there are multiple insurance products that we could have. Like for illnesses, you can have health insurance. For deaths, you can have life insurance. For jobs, you could have unemployment insurance. You could actually have um, there's products. I can't believe some of the newer things that they do now with insurance. It wasn't happening that way when I, first started learning it. But some protections that you could put in for jobs, even some of your credit cards that you have will offer you an insurance on your credit card that if you lose your job, that they will pay your bill until you get another job. And I can't think of the exact wording, like it's not the same wording for each company, I'll say it that way. But when they offer it to you, sometimes it's like 70 to 80 cents on the dollar of whatever your bill is, you enroll into this program. And then if you did lose your job, you could contact those card companies and say, I lost my job. They'll look up and see that you paid that little 60, 70 cents on the dollar for whatever your bill is, and they'll cover your bill until you get a job. I believe they can max it out at 6 months. Um, you could have car insurance if there's an accident or anything to your home, and you can have home insurance for anything in your home. You could buy insurance like now businesses. You can purchase business insurance. You can add additional products like storm insurance. Some of the regular home insurance don't cover floods. You can buy flood insurance. So there's so many products. So when you are actually thinking about your finances and getting your whole picture in place, you should consider the type of storms that may arise for what all things you may have to have insurance for. Like if you have children, if you own multiple properties, if you own other businesses, like all of the things that make up your financial landscape is what you should consider when you are looking at the products for your storms. Okay, so specifically about women, um, I don't pride myself in feeding into the narrative that women and men have to be are not equal, or that women and men have to be equal. I think that all people should experience life or will experience life for what they have prepared for. But I do know that there are some things specifically that women do or have to do that some men don't. And so when I was looking at why it would be so important for us to include insurance in this piece is because of the things that I put here on the screen, and I'm saying and more because I'm sure each one of you could think of something that I didn't put on the list. So my first thing is that most cases women live longer than men, that we would have to be provided for and taken care of longer than men. And what's interesting about me choosing this scripture from Genesis is that it is in right before this piece where God said that no life will be longer than 120. Before this, we saw people being 700 years old, 999 years old, and things like that. But the people were so wicked that he said, no longer will their lives go longer than 120. So when we look at preparing for it, most men, the lifespan of a man is under 70, whereas women are higher than that. So we're going to live, or most cases, women live longer than men. And for that alone is one reason why we should make sure that we have the proper protection, especially when it comes to health insurance, to be able to have the abilities to go to the doctors or not have such crazy bills because something did happen in our older age. Um, when it comes to our earnings power, unfortunately, it is a fact that most women will earn less than men over their lifetime. It used to be the case that we could say that when the jobs that women had would lend itself to be less. Like men might have worked in factories, whereas women might have did things domestically. So from the nature of the jobs, it would appear, yes, that should have been the case that a woman would be making less than a man. But now you have women engineers or women, say lawyers, women, heads of securities and whatever, right? If you look side by side, it is still, unfortunately, a fact that a woman can have the same job as a man and she is going to be making less money than he is. Is that right? No, but it's a fact. And because of that, women will have to have more ways to subsidize what will need to be taken care of because they're not even making as much. Having insurance products allows you to be able to do that. Um, Now this one, the nurturing, I'm gonna say it this way, nurturing naturally comes from women. And it's not to say that men do not do this, but in a typical standpoint, if this has to occur, more than likely it is going to be the women who are going to be caring for children or caring for aging parents. They say we be in a cycle of life, that there's a period that our parents take care of us, and then there's a cycle that we eventually start taking care of them. More than more normal now than not, we have more people taking care of their parents. And then they even may still have children. They call it the sandwich age, where you got little kids, that you're providing for and taking care of, but your parents are at the age now that you got to take care of them. So you're going up and down that you are giving out the care and nurture. That's wearing and tearing, on you, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, financially draining you as a woman. That alone is another reason why we should make sure that we have insurance in place. Um, the next one about becoming a widow, like most people who are married, natural sense of things, the man normally is the breadwinner. If your husband it becomes deceased, that's income that's taken out of the home, or that cannot be replaced because it was his income. So if he's gone, he could have a pension or benefits or something that you could get. In most cases, it's not what he was bringing in. So you're going to feel the difference when you have to go to whatever the subsidized payments are for him. So becoming a widow is another reason why we should have, our own insurances in place. And then the last one, I thought was kind of interesting to bring in because it's happening now more than it used to be that people, women, will take career breaks for caregiving. So it used to be that you just had your um, child, you could get, let's say 6 weeks off of work, and then you go back to work. It costs so much more to put your children in daycare that most parents have a child and stay off of work so much longer because they're not making the amount of money that it costs to put the kid in daycare. So luckily there are provisions that people can take off longer and still have their job secured, or some of them will just quit and say it's not worth it. I'll stay home. I'll take care of my baby till he's, 3 or 4, can go into school. I don't have to pay, thousands of dollars a month, and then I'll go back into the workforce, which means I got to start over. So in those periods, she's not working. Having some insurance products can help. Now, like I said, I'm sure there are more things that we could put on this list that women are more prone to than men, which is why I want to definitely say that we should be talking about insurance. Okay, so I want us to think about it in this context that there may be storms that will come. And because we don't know the storm, just like Noah didn't know the vastness of the flood and the 40 days of rain that would be coming, we don't know what's going to happen with us as well. And so I'm listing this out, like to say, play on words. We can build a financial arc that can help us in the storms of life or the things that are unexpected that we may not know, definitely don't have no control over. What is it that we may need to build, the pieces that we may need to put our financial arc together? And so I listed out a couple of the insurance types, which we mentioned already: health, life, auto, home owners or renters insurance, disability, which I didn't hit. So let me pause here. That it used to be the case that with your insurance, packages at work, that disability was a coverage. Now, most companies are having you to opt in to disability. Sometimes you get the option of short term or long term. You may have to use weeks of PTO time before your disability insurance kicks in, but you still will have to pay in something, whereas we used to didn't have to do that at all. But now, on top of that, instead of being able to give you your salary, you're getting like 60% or 70% or 80% of what you would have made, depending on what you're opting into. That is a form of insurance, but it's still something that has to come out of your pocket just in case, something happens. With the emergency fund, this goes back to us talking about our budgets and savings, that we would save enough money to be able to take care of things as an emergency without putting them on a credit card or without having to take out a loan for those things. And then the last two, which is more of what we're going to finish with next week, is making sure that we have a will or estate plan in place and that our beneficiaries are updated. I can't tell you the number of stories that I've heard about ex-wives being still on policies, or parents had children and their initial beneficiaries may have been their first or second child, but they've had two more kids and those kids wasn't named. So the family is fighting, about it. But also in you actually taking the time to address the insurance needs, you literally get to make sure that you are doing what we said a budget does, is that you are directing where funds go, or you're directing, what happens with your money. So, how um, are we in building our arc, and what all things, products, resources do we need to put together so that our arc, financial arc, can be built? And the last thing before we chat here, will be very simple, that I hope that we will not take the stance of most people, that it's just in case of, so I don't really need it, but that we take the stance of it's just in case that I do need it. Like, you can look at that from both sides, but because he did not wait until he saw the rain, God told him that it was going to, God instructed him to do it, and he did it. As you mature and matriculate through life, that we are hearing that there may be a day that you're not working again. There may be a day you have accident. There may be a day you have a water heater bust, or roof collapse or something. There may be a day that these things happen, and if we already have the insurances in place, then all we should have to do is pull out our insurance number, our claim number, write a claim online, call the insurance agent and say, hey, I need XYZ, and they come out and get it fixed, and you move on. Adding this into our story brings or adds to our financial peace. We talked on the first week about what is it that we're looking for on our financial journey here, and it's peace is one of the things that we're looking for. So if we can say that we take the time to properly cover, to properly think about what storms may be arising for us, we can say that our financial arc will be sturdy enough that we should be able to ride the waves of the storm. All right. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing here and say that as you go through um, your necessary steps to make sure things are in order, one of the things that you should do is to review what you have. Like, we may all purchase insurance policies or get them, earlier on in life, may have some from jobs or may have private ones or whatnot. Having them is one thing and updating them is another. So there's one thing that I would also encourage, that if you already have the products, that you take a look at what all things am I covering, or what more do I need to cover, to make sure that if or when something happens, that you're not being blindsided by them saying, oh, that's not covered, or oh, you didn't include that, where all along you're thinking, I got insurance, or I have this taken care of. Take the time to actually go back and review what you have, and see it truly as a form of stewardship, that you are being responsible over what you have. You are being responsible of the things that you have to care for, and then you will be responsible even at the time of the loss, for what may be. The last thing that I would mention that you should consider when you are doing the purchasing the insurance is the level of co-payments or deductibles, I should say deductibles, not co-pays, the deductibles you would have to pay when something happens. So say that let's still do car insurance, probably an easier example. Car insurance, they say they will, cover you for $50,000 for accident, $100,000 for, total 50,000 per person, 100,000 per accident, like the numbers that you can apply for. And you get to choose like how much will your deductible be. You can choose $250 or $500, $1,000, $2,000, and the deductible amount that you choose is normally going to make your actual price be lower the higher that you choose. If you say I'm only going to pay 250 for my deductible, they may tell you, okay, then your insurance may be say let's say 100, let's say round numbers, $200 a month. If you said I'm going to have $1,000 deductible, your premium may be only $125 a month. Like they're building in for them to always get their money back. So the more money you pay as a deductible, the lower you're paying every month. The only problem with that is when people realize what's happening is they'll take the higher deductible, and then when time comes to use it, they're like, "Oh, I got to pay $2,000 or $1,000, for this because it's my deductible amount. I don't have that much." Our previous lessons about budgeting and having the envelopes and having the savings builds you up to this point that you should always be accounting for that. So if I have the $1,000 or $2,000 deductible, you should have $1,000 or $2,000 putting in savings away just in case you have to use this insurance because that's the amount you opted for. You're saving money monthly or quarterly for the payments. Put that money aside to be able to pay for that just in case so that you're not creating another financial problem when that emergency happens. So everything should build up on the next, should be able to put us in a position that we can say that we are securing everything around us and everything about what we have to do and see it truly as a form of you being a good steward over what God has given you, whether that's your finances, your job, and things like that, but also over what everything God has given you, your family, your home, your cars, and whatnot. So we can be good stewards by making sure that we have the protections in place to cover the things that we have. So, what kind of questions or comments do you guys have today?
I have a comment, and I don't know if they call it, I don't think it's pre-need insurance. I think it's just a pre-need arrangement.
Mhm.
And I did that over 40 years ago. So that meant
Okay.
that I locked my burial prices in at the price 40 years ago. Whereas
Yes.
now it has probably 100% doubled from what it was. I got mine is just $3,000 now. And I know
Hmm.
when I buried my sister in 2018, it was 11,000. So I'm
Hmm.
sure it's much more than that now. So I find that to be something that people should think about as well as a part of your
Yes.
financial portfolio or whatever.
Yes, that is so true. So my sister works for a funeral home and they advertise all the time about pre-needs. Some people don't understand it because, well, let's back up. Most people don't want to talk about it because I don't even want to talk about death. And I throw in the term of being a good steward because you actually are taking care of business. Like this is gonna happen, at some point. It's happening. Some people just say, "Oh, I'll just, I'll have the insurance, put aside." Miss Angela's point is is gold. That if you do make the plans, whatever they sell to you right now, you're prepaying for it. Then some of them will already even walk you through laying out the actual funeral, like not just paying for the burial itself. They'll walk you through all of it. I heard a story of an instance where somebody did prepay, their family came, went to the specific funeral home because they knew that their mother had given them the policy and all that kind of stuff. And it had been so long that the funeral home couldn't believe the price that was on there. Like what Miss Angela was saying, they couldn't believe what they was gonna have to do. Well, she already prepaid for it. Okay, add no more to it, or anything. The scary part is back in the day. there were so many, um, I'm gonna say insurance agents. There were not Black people that came into the Black communities and tried to sell those products. And the Black old people, indigent people, poverty stricken people were paying, let's say $15 a month, $12 a month or something. They were paying these monies, and they came to find that the policies wasn't worth much when it got to the actual funeral home to do it. It maxed out at $500. And these people were paying 10, 12, $15 for 30, 40 years,
Mhm.
and the policy was only worth 500. So if you do the pre-needs thing, make sure that it doesn't cap out and say, so Miss Angela said $3,000, for example, that it shows that it covers this, and this. Make sure you don't just say, I'm gonna give you $3,000 for this, because they can come back now. In her example, her other one was 11,000. They can come back and say, oh, she only paid 3,000. Y'all gotta pay 8,000. That's not how pre-needs is supposed to be. Pre-needs is supposed to take care of everything
Everything.
that is done. So make sure you read what they are saying that you are getting covered. But that is a great addition to the list, and I'll update this when I save for the
Okay, and
next
I
time.
like that. I like that you added that tonight too, to go back and check because, like I said, I did it over 40 years ago. It's
Hmm.
attached to my insurance policy, which I still have. So I
Hmm.
need to go back and make sure that there will be no
Hmm.
complications at that time. So I appreciate you for tonight.
Yes, yes. All right. Anyone else have a comment or a question?
I have a question. If you have insurance through your job, life insurance,
Hmm.
and say you don't have outside insurance, you have it through your job, but if you retire, you can't take that money with you. So that means that you have to start all over with life insurance because you've had it for so long and you retired from that job, but when you retired from that job, you couldn't take it with you. That leaves you vulnerable. So, would you say that you need to have outside and the work insurance?
So with the work insurance, most cases they'll give you an option to opt in to additional coverage. Like most cases they'll say like your insurance coverage is like one times your salary. You can opt in to get an additional. Like with mine, for example, I get one and a half times my salary that they give to me. I can pay to get another one times my salary, and then I could pay to do another policy that maxes at 25,000. I could pay to do a coverage of my husband, a coverage of my kids. Like and you could add things. So if you only have job insurance, you got to look at the other parts that you can add. If you leave that job, the parts that you added, that insurance company will offer you to keep paying them outside of the company, but you now pay the premiums directly to them. But the one that the job gives to you for being there, that one will go away. So yes, I would say that if you only have the job one and you didn't opt into the additionals, then you should look at outside ones. Um, you never know how long you're going to be employed there or when you're going to die, right? We don't know either one of these things. So because of that, you should look at the extension that you can. And some cases, um, you will get more opportunity for coverage during doing term life, but the premiums are lower on the term life, but it's what it says. It will only cover you for this term. So you say 10 years, for example, 10-year term policy. But when those 10 years are up, there's no more insurance there either. You got to do it again for another 10 years. So when we get insurance later in life and you try to get whole insurance, the premiums are through the roof. So one of the
Mhm.
things that I say to people, especially when you have children, cover them as a baby. Like if you say, and I'm gonna be astronomical here, I want $1 million life insurance policy on, little Tomas. And as at the hospital, literally calling the insurance agency before he walks out of the hospital, your premiums are going to be so small and they can't change them. You're locked in. But when we wait until our kids are 15, 18, or even when our lives, us as we're 40, 45, 50, if you go try to get a $1 million policy, you're going to be paying hundreds of dollars a month to try to get that type of coverage. So earlier that you get it, the price is lower. And if we're getting it later, looking at all of the options. Now, it's not to say that we should not go for whole life because there are some changes in the laws now that will allow you to get whole life at a decent price, but you do got to go through a lot of like medical scannings, background history stuff like that to get lower pricing, but it's still worth it for whole life so that you don't have to keep renewing after a certain amount of period of the term that you choose.
Okay. Because when my kids were smaller, I got life insurance and still paying it today. And I was like, you can't spend $10
Mm-hmm.
and get life insurance because I did it when they were babies. But
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm saying. My husband had the insurance at his job, and then he added us on to it. But when he retired, they told him he couldn't take any of that with
Mm-hmm.
him when he retired. So we had to go outside, and which it benefited us while he was working there.
Mm-hmm.
But and once again, we need to know what we're signing up for to say, hey, you can't take this if you retire. I mean, I understand if you quit or if you're fired or whatever, but he retired and still couldn't take any of that. There was
Mm-hmm.
no option for us to pay a premium or anything on that. So, which I had it on my boys anyway, outside of that. But with us, we had to go back outside after he retired to get that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I tell people like we have to read. Like it's great, to have the curves. Like the prices that you would pay to be an employee is nowhere near what you would pay on your own. So it's really, really good to have it. And like you said, getting it on your children younger is so important for the pricing. It is, and even the type of policy that you get on children. Like this is so one of the things. Like I told you guys before about me being at the um investment firm and the Caucasian man saying, what he thought about Black people and money. When it comes to insurance, one of the things that I had experienced in when it comes to the difference between us and some of them is that they not only see the insurance as the in case of, it's a financial product within itself. If you purchase the ones that have cash value in them, that's how most of them buy their kids cars and nice cars when they get their first car because they've been putting this money in all this time that when the kid gets 16, 17, or 18, there's so much cash built in there. You can go buy a car cash out of that buildup. You could pay for the kids' college out of the cash buildup because it's been happening for 18. That compounding that I mentioned to you guys last week is happening. You could do that inside of insurance products as well. So it's serving two purposes. So you would get, in my example, the $1 million will be at death. But at this time, as you're living, there's cash money sitting there that you get to take out, not a loan, don't have to pay it back. It's yours that you could go and buy what you need for your kids, in this case, can have a car or college at no price. Like there's so many benefits of having it, and that's why we need to actually sit down with financial planners or even without a planner, an insurance agent could do that, but you want to do your homework always on who you're working with. Like there are companies that will I call them the pyramids that you can tell me that I'm going to be a financial advisor. I haven't been to school, I haven't taken no exams, I got to come to 3 weeks of training and I'm a financial advisor. No, that's not a financial advisor. That's somebody who's screening calls to give you to another person. But those people are tasked with selling insurance. And one of the things that I have always said when it comes to that is that most people who take a job like that, which I want them to have a job, so I'm not trying to have nobody not have a job, but they take that job and they're told they're gonna get, X dollars or this is your earning potential, whatever, which is all based upon you convincing somebody else to buy this insurance product. So let's say, they call all their friends, come listen to this presentation. You need this, you need that. It's going to cost you, $109 a month or, whatever it is. You're going to get the people to buy into it. Okay, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this. But if they haven't prepared to pay that $109 a month, it's going to lapse at some point. Now they don't have the insurance coverage. You're not getting your commission, or they're going to deduct the money back from you because the person didn't keep the policy or whatever. But we get in these cycles because we are not properly educated about what they are, but the people who are selling them are not even properly educated about what they are. So if you're going to be looking at investing in some insurance products, do not go with these, pop-up people that says, "Hey, I'm a financial planner now." Go to a reputable company and actually ask about their insurance licenses or how long they've been licensed or what states they're licensed in, so you can see the seriousness of the people that you're dealing with, to make sure that they're not just trying to sell you something to get commission, but they actually ask you the right questions, like the storms that I was telling about. What all things are you preparing for? What all do you have to cover? If they're not really doing an assessment on you and telling you, "Oh, you can just, pay $109, you'll be covered," that's the wrong person to deal with. So even doing your due diligence in who you work with to sell you the right products, and make sure that they will talk to you about multiple products. If they are only pushing one product on you, that means that's the only product they're allowed to sell, or the only thing that they know, and they don't know enough to help you while you're building your financial arc. So again, doing your due diligence as to who you would work with for that. And that's not a black white thing that happens, in any culture, any neighborhood. But one thing that I have talked about with my um, friends in the insurance business, they said when a black person dies, we can mail a check, because 9 times out of 10, they're not covered for more than $50,000, maybe 100,000. But when a white person dies, we have to drive to their home, have them to sign for the checks, because they over $1 million, and Sally getting a check, Johnny getting a check, John getting a check, everybody getting a check from this policy. And I joke about how quick it appears that our lighter brothers and sisters put their friends in the ground. And it take us 2, 3, 5 weeks to have a funeral. But they're not only having a funeral in 3 days, they done already bought new cars and moved to new homes in a week, because the coverage that they had afforded them to do that. Now, I'm not telling you to go and buy a crazy huge policy to leave something for someone, but I'm saying there's a difference in our mentality, and 9 times out of 10, it's because of how much it costs us to do it. So again, building up off of our basic lessons all the way up to our finish, that they all build up on each other. If we have our basic things in place, when it comes time to us actually getting the insurance, we can make better decisions about the coverage and not what does it cost. which typically is what ends up getting us the coverage because we can only afford a certain thing. So that'll be my prayer, for you guys today, that you will review what you have. If you don't have anything, that you will actually seek out an insurance agent and see what is the possibilities for it, and be prepared for whatever storm that comes your way. Are there any other comments or questions before we end tonight? Okay, ladies. Well, one more lesson in our financial series so you can have your bags with no holes in them and be able to have the financial peace that God will want us to have. So we'll see you back here on next week for our last lesson in the financial series. Bye.